today. Thank you to our sponsors, Pixelate, who we're going to hear later, and our hosts as well, KPMG. I'm just going to sort of make recognition of the fact that just going to remember our friends, in London today. I think what we saw yesterday really sort of cut to the core of all of us, and but for the grace of God. So very much in our thoughts to please the media and everybody else caught up in that tragedy yesterday in Westminster. We're going to mention a couple of things at the end of the event, just to flag it up as well. So Business Cloud is a year old. We do lots of events. We've done 50 in the last year since we started. We've got a couple of events taking place later in May and June. We've got a Lancashire Powerhouse in April as well, on the 19th of April. We've got a digital Bolton event on May the 17th. And just to reference something as well, we're doing a new list in the next magazine of Business Cloud. It's tech startups. So we're looking for the best 150 tech startups. Lots of PAs. That's nice there, isn't it? Very nice. You want to say a few words? So we're doing a list of the best tech startups in the UK as well. So if you've got clients who are tech startups, you need to be sending your nominations to us, because we're looking for nominations as well. If you want to follow the conversation on Twitter, you can. The hashtag is #BCloudTech. That's #BCloud, hence the name of Business Cloud, Tech PR. So our first panel is made up of Claire Tennant, Managing Director of MC2, Anna Hayes, Managing Director of Active Profile, Lisa Morton, Managing Director of Roland Rance. So we've got some Managing Directors here. Ben Martin, you saw him earlier, the Creative Director of Peppermint Soda, and Chris Green of Everyone, which is a company based in Preston. It's worth saying as well that not every question we ask will be about tech. It would be a bit boring if it was. I know we're a tech magazine, but we aim to demystify tech, but we're also looking at how PR and marketing has changed over the years. So Claire, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to take you back, if I may. Before we talk about MC2, it's hard to believe that you've been in PR for 15 years. Looking at you, probably feeling like a day or two. Would it be fair to say that the PR industry was a lot sleepier when you started than it is now? It seems to be much more cut and trust.
Do I need one of...
You do, if you can talk into the microphone.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for making me sound really old. Sleepy is one way to describe it, I guess. It was just a lot less reactive than it is now, and a lot less dynamic. So, because of tech and other things, social media, breaking news, that wasn't the way it is now. My clients were able to just kind of be on transmit more than they were to kind of have to react to things. So it was just, not as reactive and not as fast paced as it is now. Certainly.
You think you're old? I mean, I'm a lot older than you. I've been in the industry now for 25 years. In the olden days, you never had to buy a drink, because drinks were, bought for you mainly by PRs and marketeers.
Journalists had a great life.
They did have a great life. It was called relationship building. But in your experience as a PR and marketeer, was that just a euphemism for having a few beers at, all bar one?
Well, my office was above all bar one when I first started, so that helped. There was they had the luxury to do that, so we would certainly kind of take journalists out. You had more time to brief them, build those relationships in that way, get to know them. They became kind of friends of the companies and of the agencies. We still do that now. We still have good relationships with journalists, but we just do it in a different way.
I'm not had an invite since I left inside.
You're too busy, Chris.
Nothing, not a sausage. I'd say it's my birthday coming up. Yeah, May the 9th.
Remember.
So, back in the day, when you were starting off, what did success look like for your clients? When it came to a PR marketing campaign, was it a show in the regional press? Was it a show in the industry press? What was success?
My clients when I first started were in the professional services sector, and as I said, they were it was all about their messaging, and they were purely on transmit. So there were a lot more in-depth regional features, for the legal sector. So we really focused on those, and they were obsessed by legal trade press, and that was kind of their world. And obviously the nationals on the bigger cases, but that was as far as it extended really. Nowadays, if you kind of fast forward, there's a lot more opportunity, and the way they tell their stories kind of changed. There's a lot more they can react to, piggyback on, and that they get much more back from their audiences that they can then engage with, as opposed to just constantly transmitting.
Talk about MC2. MC2, one of the biggest names in Manchester. You employ 48 people. You've got a San Francisco business called Peloton. You've got a base in Cheltenham to service one particular client. Just tell us what MC2 do right now. How would you describe their role?
We're an integrated agency, so I think almost to kind of pick up on those trends that have we all know have kind of come into play over over the years. We've got a large media relations team. We've also got in-house design, digital and video, which enables us to use all the channels and all the platforms to get the best results for our clients. And the San Francisco office was an interesting one. We set up there because they tend to be, particularly on use of tech and employee advocacy, a bit more ahead of the curve than we are over here. So we use them as a spotting the trends and a real test bed for stuff that we then bring over to the UK. But we've also taken a bit of the way the UK work over to the US. So a couple of clients were having real difficulties finding that consistency of ways of working and kind of conducting their comms. So we kind of took our way of doing that and took that to the US. So I think there's a bit that we've learned from both of us, really.
And you're flying over to the US in about a week's time, aren't you?
Yeah, so we've organised a Northern Powerhouse technology trade mission that leaves on the first flight from the Powerhouse to San Francisco from Manchester Airport on Tuesday, with 30 tech leaders that's going over to do exactly that, really, to really showcase the Powerhouse to tech businesses that want to move over to here, but then also to learn a lot from how they work over there. So particularly the connection between universities and business. Our clients in the tech space are constantly talking about how there's a skills gap, they're not getting what they need, they've not got those close relationships with the universities, whereas in the US I think they've really kind of moved a step on in that, and they're much more closely connected. So we're going to be learning a lot about that, visiting LinkedIn and Facebook and talking about how they develop skills and retain staff, going into Stanford and talking about how they support spin outs.
One word that I hear a lot when I talk to PR marketing companies is integration. Integration is a word that you've used a lot today as well. What does integration look like?
I think it's about having, whether you have it in-house or you do it through a partnership network, it's just about looking at the bigger picture. So, certainly when I started in a traditional PR agency and we did PR. Whereas now I think you can't look at that in isolation. You have to be able to deal with all the different channels and be able to conduct a campaign and deliver comms in the appropriate way to get the best results. So it's about just having that big picture outlook and being able to deliver the right services at the right time for the client.
I think the media's changed. I think PR has certainly changed in a big way. Do you think there's still a place in society for a PR company that just pumps out press releases?
No, because you can't do that in isolation anymore, because those press releases end up online, they get talked about on social media. If you're going to deliver the right results, it needs to be backed up by collateral and online advertising and a digital campaign. So it's impossible to just be the PR person that does press releases now, I think.
Otherwise you become obsolete very quickly.
Yeah.
Looking at your client list, got some big name clients. I don't know if I can mention this here at KPMG, but Deloitte, one of your clients, Allied London, Cavalry, Northwest Air Ambulance, I'll say that again, Deloitte, one of your clients. NCC Group, at a busy time. Is there a particular marketing and PR campaign that you look back and think, you know what, we really made a difference with that? I mean, clearly every campaign that you do, you really made a difference, but if you picked one or two, what would they be?
Well, I think one of the interesting ones that we've done recently has been around the placemaking area. So we worked with Belfast City Council to really work on their investment strategy and take that out to market internationally, which was really interesting, and particularly kind of thinking about the tech theme. We went out to MIPIM for the first time with Belfast with a delegation of 75, and we were thinking about how we could bring Belfast to life for people that didn't have a kind of up-to-date perception of what the city was like, and it has moved on massively, and it's got a lot of, particularly in the digital sector, a lot of growth and a lot of interesting things going on. So we used VR to do that, which was really interesting, kind of bringing that to the stand. We worked with Google on getting some students to walk around the city, give us a bit of a tour that we then use virtual reality to kind of bring that to life on the stand. And they had, investment deals off the back of the whole campaign, clearly not just the VR, but it, that strategy and that way of kind of taking Belfast to market was really impactful for them.
Somebody said to me once when they were talking about journalism, maybe they were looking at my career, they said there's no such thing as a news story. Is there such a thing as a new PR and marketing campaign, or is it just really a rehash of an old one?
I wouldn't say rehash, Chris, that's a bit harsh. I would say that I think you can have new ideas, because if you've understood a client's business well, it's about understanding what they can offer, and it's down to the people and the expertise of that business, and that they do differ. I think, you know, in terms of tactics, they might not be so new, but it's about the kind of bigger picture and how you link that together, and, you know, bringing creativity into it. So I think, you know, I don't think it's, you know, we're just rehashing old ideas. I think there is new creativity that you can see in campaigns.
Well, one thing I want to mention is finally, before I come to Anna Hayes, Managing Director of Active Profile, is how important are internal comms? You use the phrase employee advocacy. But how important is that to a business, especially one that's growing at, you know, your size?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting, you know, customers, you know, on social media, we all know that they're really influential, but people often forget that employees are the same. They've got access to social media, they're talking about the businesses they work for, and they're often a little bit left behind and a bit forgotten. So again, you know, I mentioned with San Francisco, they do a lot over there with employee engagement and making sure that not only are we trying to share those messages with our external audiences, but internally we're all on message and we've got those messages to take out because they can be your biggest advocates. So we've worked with San Francisco office to develop an app that they're using out there that we've kind of brought over here, which is not, you know, it's more than just your traditional intranet, which, you know, people only go on to log their expenses. It's about actually sharing that message in an engaging way. It's almost like a Facebook for business, where you can actually engage with the business, share ideas, share interesting stories, and that's really a powerful communications tool that I think a lot of businesses aren't making the most of at the moment.
Okay, thanks very much. Great way to start.
Thank you.
I'm going to come to Anna Hayes now, Managing Director of Active Profile. Just a reminder, if you want to follow the conversation on Twitter, you can. Hashtag is BCloudTechPR. Can recommend those scrambled egg rolls. They're lovely, aren't they? Absolutely terrific. Just want to see who else was eating them. So just tell us a bit about Active Profile first, if you would. I mean, it was started in Liverpool. You've got a presence here in Manchester and London. Just tell us what Active Profile do.
Okay, so we're a PR and communications agency. We build profile and drive engagement for a range of clients, but predominantly in the tech, innovation, property and investment sectors. We've been around now for 12 years and growing, and about a third of our work now is here in Manchester.
What's nice actually, there's a lot of loyal employees in the room today because they're all tweeting about what a great performance everyone's putting in. So far, Lisa's putting in a great performance, according to her staff. She's not even said a word yet, but just the way you're standing there, Lisa, is sitting there really grabbing some attention as well. You know what? When I've been in journalism for a long time, and people used to talk about going to the dark side, that people got cheesed off with losing their jobs or being at threat of risk of jobs in newspapers. I'm going to get a job in PR, like it was an easy option, or that's what you did. PR's traditionally employed ex-journalists. So when you started your business all them years ago, you employed ex-journalists. I think the ratio was 60% journalists to sort of non-journalists. Now you're one of only about 2 journalists in your business. Why do you think that change has happened?
I mean, all our recruitment is based on client need and a changing client need, and I think over time, you know, as that has changed, so have the skills that we've needed. If you think about now, you know, consuming content online, as we all know, you know, how many people have bought a newspaper this morning versus...
Well, I mean, let's ask the question.
Okay.
How many people in the room have bought a newspaper this morning? Alex Bell, you can't count Metro, mate. You can't count Metro as buying a newspaper. You pick it up for free. But it's true, isn't it? 3 people in the room have bought a newspaper this morning on a big news day after what happened yesterday.
Absolutely, and you know, I can probably guarantee how many people have checked news on social, email, apps, you know, app subscriptions. Sorry. So yeah, the world's changed. I mean, our most recent hire was Stuart Robots. He's a blogger from Tech Hub and kind of New Atlas. So yeah, we're not necessarily taking people out of the newsroom, we're taking people from the blogosphere and, you know, anywhere else.
You've got 12 staff, you've got 10 women and 2 men. It's interesting because we do lots of events and people will tweet about the fact there's not enough women on the panel and this, that and the other, and I think it's absolutely right that we're held to account. In PR and marketing, I'm delighted that there's more women in the sector. There's not enough women in tech. It's something we've got to work really hard at. How do you judge success for your clients? I mean, would it be a double page spread in the Liverpool Echo? What would success look like for you?
Obviously, different clients are going to judge success differently. So a client raising profile for an exit or investment is going to be very different to a client who's launching a new scheme, you know, an office scheme. if we take an example of a client, launching a new product or service, we will be measured on coverage, engagement, social reach, etc. But ultimately, the launch, it's about driving inquiries, hits to landing pages, and conversion. So that's ultimately where we would measure success.
Okay. Anybody want to hazard a guess? When did LinkedIn start? A year. Have a guess. Far. It doesn't actually really work if nobody's done some practice. What year? 97. Okay. Anybody else want to have a guess? Higher or lower?
2007.
2000 just looked up over there. No, it was 2003, I think. What about Facebook? What year? 2004. Okay. What about Twitter? Katie Pulliam from KPMG. What year? Very rare question, I think. What year?
2006.
2006. Yes, it was. Very impressive. You can go now, Katie. Your job is done. That's why she gets the money. No money available for this, though, I should say. I mean, social media is, people forget, it's a relatively new phenomenon. How has social media changed PR and marketing?
How's it changed? I think the instantaneous nature of social media has changed the reactive side, definitely. It's given us new channels, multiple new channels, so multiple skills, kind of needed. It has, it's a crucial element now rather than an option, and I think that's certainly something that's changed over the years as well. Crucial element to campaigns, and I think now we can't forget as well that that instant kind of connection with customers. The way of the world, kind of purpose. Everybody kind of wants to understand a purpose and have that connection. That's social media really.
Andy Burnham, the Labour mayoral candidate for Greater Manchester, came to UK Parks office yesterday, and I was talking to him about social media, and he does all his own Twitter, all his own tweets. He thinks it's important that from a public perception it's seen as being much more real. And I was talking about social media, he said when it comes to Snapchat he speaks to his kids about it, because he doesn't really sort of understand it. If you were advising your clients and you were saying what type of social media is best for you, would it be Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, would it be Snapchat? Which apparently is a form of social media. Again,
it's like a politician's answer, isn't it? Depends on the client, who they're trying to talk to, and the strategy involved. I think it's quite interesting, really. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn from a B2B perspective, but I think things like Facebook Live are kind of bringing businesses back to Facebook again. And some of those channels you can't really necessarily pinpoint. Now with social media, a lot of it's about experimentation as well, and I think you can see businesses doing some interesting things and talking to new markets via different platforms. Instagram's been really good for obviously visual projects, but the design community, a lot of people in the kind of smart cities, architect space as well. So not a definitive answer there, and we probably don't rank them 1, 2, 3.
No, it's a horses for courses approach, basically. Have you ever thought about life as a politician? You've sat on the fence every question.
I have.
Splinters in your bottom. We hosted an event recently. It was described actually as the best event we've ever hosted, by ourselves, as it was our first ever event that we've ever hosted. Once a PR, always a PR. But on a serious note, you spoke about the 10-4-1 approach to handling social media. Tell us what you mean by that.
So this is the idea that for every 15 tweets, posts on various platforms, that 10 of them are engagement, that 4 are kind of content-driven, blogging, and that 1 should be about your business or kind of tracking people through to a landing page. Now this is obviously about growing reach, and it just kind of sets a ratio or some sort of guidance around that.
You have a reputation for being a bit of a strategist. You came in, I'm not trying to play smoke in your area, which is suffering from splinters at the moment, given the fact you've been sitting on the fence for the last 20 minutes. But we talked about Business Cloud and my ambitions for Business Cloud and what I was going to do, and you actually opened my eyes to the direction of travel that I was taking, and changed the course that I was sort of travelling at. So you do have a reputation for being a very much a strategist. How important is it to have a separate business plan and a separate communication strategy? Because sometimes people can morph them together, can't they?
Yeah, I mean they need to be distinctive elements, definitely. Do have a plan, but they very much work hand in hand. Your communication strategy should support your business plan, and it surprises me even now, going to organisations that kind of don't have those strategies and plans in place. Especially now with kind of the integrated nature of services, you'll have multiple partners or agencies working on campaigns, and even internally as well. Just having that plan in place can really kind of galvanise a direction, and if nothing else, just to measure success against.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Absolutely terrific. Lisa Morton, Managing Director of Roland Drownfield, a familiar face in PR and marketing in Manchester for a number of years, and it's great to have you here. This time last week you were at Mippen.
Yeah.
How much drink did you drink?
A lot. Body weight.
Now, before we talk about Roland Dransfield, which was you started off yourself, let's go back to the beginning of your career. You left uni at 1989, which comes as a real surprise to me. You went into PR at a time when the internet didn't even exist. There's young kids in the room now thinking, was there a time when the internet really didn't exist? What was life in PR marketing like then? Because one would imagine it was a bit, a bit backward.
It was backward, yeah. It was very slow. I think with the military, there were no mobile phones, so a fax was a kind of an extravagance in an office at the time. My kids, when they were little, actually said to me, what was it like in the war? And I'm feeling that's the same kind of conversation now. But I think we spoke to clients a lot more. I mean, we kind of make a conscious effort in our office now to actually pick up the phone and speak to clients, because you can spend so much time emailing and sending copious emails and emailing the person that's sitting opposite in the office. But my job as a junior account exec was to go with armfuls of press releases, with and hard print photographs every night at the post office, and then you have to chase press up, and it could take you 5 days, a week to even get an answer back from a journalist. So it was extremely slow and frustrating looking back.
You used to come in the morning. I used to come in and I was sort of a starter journalist then, was a little junior back then, and then I progressed up the ladder, and you'd get a big wad of mail like that, and you get about 4 or 5, great big pictures, and then you have to scan them in, and then you have to type it out. It was, scanner. What's a scanner? People are back. What's a scanner? Now, we talk about your career, and it's quite funny because it's the real examples people forget. And we were talking before, and you mentioned to me that when you started off, you had to order a pink flamingo. Now, I'm assuming that was for work, but without the internet, that was a big job, wasn't it?
Yeah, and an expensive job if you think about it. So my boss, we were launching a building in Salford Keys. It's still there. It's a pink-clad building, and my boss, who was really kind of a fab type of PR person, she wanted a pink flamingo in a fountain with pink water on it. So it's my job as the account exec to try and find the flamingo. So probably 50 phone calls. 4 days later, spoke to theatre companies, taxidermists, cried a lot. We actually finally got this flamingo, and I did the exercise. My daughter did not believe that was even possible without the internet, so we did the exercise, and you go straight into Google, hire flamingo, and you get a business called Get Stuffed straight away, which is what I thought I wanted to tell
You've got 2 children. You've got a 16-year-old daughter who's trying to become a musician, and you're going to be doing a PR campaign for her as well. Apparently so. It's going to be what mums are for. So you set up Roland Dransfield in 1996. Interestingly, I didn't know this, but Roland Dransfield was the name of a Manchester entrepreneur who you know, which was the inspiration for the name. What was the aim of the company in the beginning? When you set it up, in your 20s, what were you aiming to do?
Well, originally it's because he's my godfather, he'd been an inspiration to me when I was a little kid, and he said to me, always work for yourself. So he actually set me up in business with a bucket and a sponge, and had a car washing around at 11. So I didn't particularly really desperately want to get into PR, just kind of that's how I ended up, and I enjoyed the communication aspect of it. At the time, PR I thought it was very backward. I thought it was very very niche in Manchester. I just wanted to set a business, work with clients that I actually wanted to work with, and my driving force actually being a nice PR person, because at the time I didn't think that there were very many in the early 90s.
Yeah. Now, I always think the most successful PRs are the most personal ones, the ones that you can relate to, about. Nothing annoys me more when I get an email. I still haven't heard from you about this rubbish PR idea that I've got. Have you got my message? What do I need to do to get your attention? And people will tell you, I'm quite a personal guy, but people don't pick up the phone. If they do pick up the phone, it's, are you going to use this press release? It's got no relevance to me as a market. So you're exactly right. Nicer PRs are a lot harder to say no to than nice PRs. When you set up Roland Dransfield in 1996, when you set it up, you had the bomb in 1996 as well. So there's lots and lots of regeneration that took place in Manchester. You only got to look out KPMG's wonderful offices here to see what an amazing city we've now got to work and live in. you've got a lot of property briefs, but you're about much more than just property, aren't you?
Absolutely, and I think, you know, just from a marketing positioning point of view, I mean, that was driven by the fact that when I set the business with 96, we had a range of clients in different sectors, but then we had the bomb, and my city was bombed and needed rebuilding, and that was the thing that drew me to it. So I think very quickly we got very involved in regen. But the downside is when you're running a business, you can, because you're good at one thing, you can actually, the perception can be that's all you do. So in the recession, because realistically property fell off the radar, and we really suffered as a result of having too many eggs in one basket. So we diversified, and we made a conscious effort then to completely re-gear our business, and we're now very strong in lots of sectors, including sport, retail, leisure, professional services, and property still will always be my passion. And the city, look out this morning, it gets me, so I won't move away from that. But it's important, I think, to recession-proof your business and make sure that you've got strong enough in many sectors. And you
just achieved record growth, record turnover as well. You saw the migration towards digital relatively early, and it's easy to talk about it now as if it's part and parcel of our life, but back then it wasn't. And you paid for yourself, you went out to Boston, didn't you? You wanted to see how the Americans were doing it. What did you learn when you went to Boston?
Well, I learned that the American market was so far ahead of where we were here, like you were saying, Claire, and I was staggered really. I mean, the reason that we, and I don't think I ever told this, but I heard my friend said to me that Simon Wharton had pushed on and said that Roland Dransfield knows F all about digital, so I thought, we're a PR company, do we have to? And I thought, we absolutely do. So I got on the plane, and when I went, we actually partnered up with probably lots of people in the room know this platform is called HubSpot, but when we adopted HubSpot as an inbound marketing platform for ourselves, there were very few agencies, I don't think anyone in the Northwest had that platform. And what I learned about inbound marketing, which was that people were evangelical about it 5 years ago. I think there were 2,000 people at that conference, went last year there were 15,000. And inbound is about attracting an audience and getting them to come to you by virtue of the fact that you are publishing content that they're genuinely interested in. Rather than when I started out in PR, it was outbound, like you say, it was transmit, it was pushing stuff out to people. You weren't really sure if they were interested. Whereas with inbound now, you're bringing people towards you who have a genuine interest in what you've got to say or what you've got to offer.
Last question. In terms of Roland Dransfield today, it's unrecognisable from the Roland Dransfield when you set it up. You've now got 13 staff. I mean, you've got Alex Bell who you've employed. I'm not saying your record turnover is solely down to Alex Bell, but a big chunk of it must be, surely. I'm trying to get Alex to play for my cricket team, so I'll do whatever I need to do, Alex. If you look at your team, if you look at the company today, you've got 5 people in the digital team. You spoke about the fact how you went to America. How do you stay ahead of tech? Because tech is changing so fast. You've got 2 teenage children, I've got 2 teenage kids as well. I go to them to find out what's happening in the world, and I need to have a business plan. What do you do to stay ahead of the curve?
That's true. I mean, I think, people in our team, the digital team, they are passionate about tech. That's their life. I mean, our head of digital, Sam, he told me yesterday that he'd been at a course all day on Sunday. So the people in our team are passionate, and they keep on top of it. We have a tech talk every Friday where people come and they have to share a piece of tech that they think is going to be great for clients. But they also say, and they're very realistic, there's a key, the tech's got to be relevant for your client, it's got to work for them, as opposed to just getting excited about a piece of tech because it's something new and exciting to play with.
Okay, thanks very much, Lisa. Excellent as always. I'm going to come to Ben Martin. We heard from him earlier, Creative Director at Peppermint Soda. I've been to Peppermint Soda. JP Glassky runs it, very personable guy. Just tell us a bit about Peppermint Soda and the way you moved into integrated projects in 2011-12, didn't you?
Yeah, we PR agency from 2004, around 2007-8. We had a man on a Mac in the corner, building web pages, microsites for some of the clients. But really, from 2010, the digital offering started to grow through a lot of the existing PR clients, but also with new clients coming in just because they needed a website or some print work or branding. Really, from 2010 we started to integrate clients, but not truly. It was more project based, whereas from 2011-12 it really became about designing a strategy that was joining up the dots between all the different marketing activities.
Yeah, because you can't work disparately, can you? You've got to work together. Now, we're streaming today's event, so this whole event being watched live by an audience of millions, I believe.
Thank you for the stitch up earlier then.
So I'm glad you made such an effort. But and it can be done on a mobile phone. But streaming 5-6 years ago, it wasn't done all the time.
No.
How has technology changed PR and marketing, and how quickly is that rate of change taking place?
It's moved very rapidly. We did a live surgery for Farjo, who's a hair transplant surgeon, famous for not doing Wayne Rooney. And at the time we had
Is that like the tagline? Famous for not doing
Wayne Rooney. I think at the time there was a lot of taboo around hair transplants, so we wanted to open the door to what actually happens in the surgery, which is why I'm wearing the cap still. But we hired robotic cameras, and that was no problem. We had all the other kind of tech was available. The trickiest part for us in 2012 was actually getting it all up to the internet. And the operation was 8 hours, and to try and get that kind of constant streaming without any dropout, we had to hire specialist equipment. Now you can do it from your mobile phone. And I think the real importance, just going on to the kind of the way technology and social media in particular has changed the industry, is that it's no longer media outlets and marketing agencies that are doing the sole communication. There's no drop off anymore. There's now regular people, consumers, that are creating their own streams that have got more followers than some of the professional media outlets. So we're seeing the rise of the vlogger and the blogger, we're seeing the rise of new channels like Lad Bible, On the Tools, Joe. So there's lots of new media that's coming through. But more importantly, people have got a voice and they've got following and they've got a lot of influence, whereas the influence used to come from mainstream media. That's completely changed.
It's interesting, many years ago I worked in Daily Mail for 18 months now. Daily Mail is the top selling newspaper in this country. I think it's got probably sells 3 million copies, 3,000 would be a dip. About 3 million. You look at the video of the guy who was talking about South Korea at home and his kid walked in and his wife walked in and everything. I think that's got about 18.5 million views as well. So the platform's changing. Ultimately, and I think it's been touched upon by our speakers so far, ultimately it's all about great content, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's about provenance as well. I think there's a lot of contrived media. We're guilty of it as agencies, is trying to create a story, and sometimes out of nothing. And people see through that, especially with social media, when they're making content go viral just for fun, just for the sake of it. A pal of mine's just gone viral, and he's studying product design down at Plymouth, and he started getting dead rats and doing taxidermy and making them into pencil cases. And he's gone global, absolutely global over it. But he's not doing it for attention, he was just doing it for a bit of fun. So if you've got that kind of stuff going out there as and finally sort of news segments, we've got to really think about what is going to resonate with people, what are people interested in, what's going to pique their attention, and make that genuine content that's useful, that's genuinely interesting, that's true.
I said earlier, and to Claire, I said, it's got a birthday coming up, and it'd be lovely to be considered. Don't bother sending me one of those rap pencil cases for my birthday. I think my wife would run a mile, an absolute mile. Looking at Peppermint Soda's website, it says you're driven by tangible results with milestones to measure against. What milestones do you use to judge if a success or a campaign has been successful?
I think that, there's different metrics according to the particular projects or campaigns that you're running. So there's so many now. It could be the uplift in traffic to somebody's website. It could be using pixels to measure and track somebody on a journey through different platforms and channels. It can be down to the metrics of a buy button on a social ad post. It goes on and on and on. So it's about selecting the right metrics, but most importantly, it's looking for genuine metrics that hit the objectives that have been set by your client. And I think it's really easy to go, we've had all this traffic, we've reached all these people, but what does actually mean to the bottom line? That's really the important part. So we're trying to close up the circle to say, we've tried this, we've adjusted and refined to sharpen it up to the point where now we can actually see the till ringing or whatever, the email pinging, whether we're collecting data, whether we're trying to engage with people, or whether we're actually trying to make sales. So different metrics to different campaigns.
Last question. You keep your answer nice and succinct before we get on to Ben Stiller. Sorry. sorry, I thought it was Ben Stiller, it's not, it's Chris Green, technical director, everyone. Like this is uncanny. Because people have got mobile phones now, because they've got mobile phones and they've got social media and then suddenly they've got a platform to publish, is it sometimes difficult to convince clients that they need a PR and marketing company because they can publish themselves?
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody's got camera phones. You can get a copy of Photoshop off some torrent or stream. People think they've got the skills, and actually there are a lot of skills out there. So it's, I think the big difference that we're seeing is that people have a go and then dismiss a particular channel or platform as saying, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't necessarily mean they've done it right, and that might be the difference in the experience. So having a go yourself is all well and good, but we're people who do this every day. That's what we do. We're constantly learning that kind of stuff. So it can be a bit disappointing when you speak to a client and their nephew Johnny is pretty good with Crayola Lightbox Pro or something like that, and he's built them a website, and then they're saying that websites don't work. I think what we've seen over the last 10 years is, back in '97 it was hard to sell a website to someone. They just used the yellow pages, and now websites are the first port of call before anything. In actual fact, social media is now overtaking websites for that and Google for that kind of stuff. But what we're seeing is that you write a good website, people have to read it, and that means you've got to think about the content from the customer's perspective or the visitor's perspective. So it's not just about creating a pretty, nice, navigable website anymore. It's about making something that's actually going to answer the questions that someone's typing into the search engine, or the questions that they've got when they're arriving at your website. So it's about, again, it's about the content and slick delivery as well.
Okay, thanks very much, great Ben. You've got a timetable behind it. We'll be finishing at 9:25 today because we started 10 minutes late. Chris Green of Everyone. Am I the only one who thinks you look a bit like Ben Stiller?
I don't know, I've never heard it before.
Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks for that. Right, on to our second panel.
That was easy.
A marginal contribution. The only man whose LinkedIn profile is full size. Chris, I'll let that one hang out there for a second. I did check if you're okay about your height beforehand.
Yeah.
Digital agencies do tend to be a bit similar. You know, you were saying earlier that my mate does this, and you know, I've got an uncle, you know, who does this, or I've got a nephew who does that, and you know, I'm working for a digital agency. How do you separate yourself and differentiate yourself in a congested market? Like, what do everyone do?
I think lots of digital agencies sell the same services, but it's how they deliver those services that makes it different. For us, we, compared to our competitors, we deliver across many different channels. And when I say different channels, I mean platforms. So we develop in different languages, i.e. .NET, PHP, iOS, Android. For the size of our business, that's compared to our competitors, they don't deliver that sort of service. Clients come to us with more of a knowledge of what they want. Some of them have internal IT teams, so actually come with us with specific requirements, and we're able to deliver that. I'd say also on top of that is our
Well, one question I do want to pick your brains about, and also, can you just raise the microphone slightly?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's people at the room, and people at the back of the room we're aimed at as well. In terms of your business, you started in Blackburn, and then you relocated to Preston. You did have an office in Manchester, you did have an office in London. You've rowed back on that a little bit now. Why was that? Was it a mistake to open up those outlying offices in London and Manchester, or you were trying to be everything to all people? Or
yeah,
not?
I think it's too soon. I think we were trying to grow too quickly. Too many senior members were working in the business rather than on the business, and it was a real struggle for us. I think the time that we allocated to that, I think there was a number of new business hires that weren't quite what we expected them to be.
I mean, technology now and transport, the Virgin train can be in London in 2 hours, but there does seem to be this migration to say we've got 8 London bays, we've got a London office. You work with the likes of AO, one of your customers that you work with. A lot of customers come to you quite often and they want a new website. You said earlier, in 1997, nobody wanted a website, now everybody wants a website. The key for you is when people say, I want a website, what they want is a conversion rate, don't they? So the phrase that pays for you is a conversion rate optimisation, is that right?
It is, that's correct. We concentrate a lot on conversion now. When people come to us and they ask for a website, we're asking why do you need a new website? Most of the time it's because they've got KPIs, they're driven by, they want to increase sales, they want to increase conversions, they want to reduce their cost per acquisition for clients. So they're coming to us and they're going, right, okay, well, we need a new website, but we're not sure why. So essentially we're asking the question, well, why do you need, what's wrong with? So we try and steer people down the path of, right, let's take a really good look and audit what you've currently got and find out the best ways in which we can improve that. So we're driven by data rather than just, right, we're going to create a new website.
Okay, would it be too simplistic, and I am quite a simple guy, would it be too simplistic to say, if you want a short-term fix, go for a pay-per-click campaign, but if you want something with longevity, it's great content, it's about engaging with the audience, that's the panacea?
Completely. I mean, if you've got a new service or product and you want to get that out to market quickly, yeah, definitely, PPC is the way to go. But the short-term fix is not necessarily the right way to put it. It's not like you use PPC and then forget about it. There's definitely room for PPC in a long-term strategy. But from the outset, to get new business quickly, PPC is definitely the way to go. But you should, from that point, be building a long-term content strategy to drive organic traffic to your site. Once you've got rankings for certain keywords and you've got good domain authority on a website, for instance, you shouldn't forget about PPC. You should be using it to protect your brand. I.e., if you're doing offline marketing and somebody's got your brand name, they type that in and you're not protecting that, and other people are bidding on that, there's a potential they're going to steal your traffic. Now the downside of that is that sometimes you're cannibalising your own organic traffic by ranking for your own name, but it's better to do that than lose out to the competition.
Last question before we finish with the first panel. I'll interview Jamie Watson before the second panel come on stage. You employ 22 people, up in Preston, you're turning over about £1.2 million. Can you compete with the big boys? I mean, MC2 employ 48 people, for example. You know, does size count?
I think, can we compete with the big boys? Sometimes it's, do we want to compete with the really big boys? We've got to sort of pick our battles. We've got, at the size we are, we have got limited resources. We have to, in effect, look at opportunities and say, is it going to be long-term beneficial for us and the clients? We try to pick and align ourselves with businesses that are looking for a long-term partnership rather than somebody who's looking for a supplier of a one-off project, for instance.
Yeah, so it's important to almost to work with nice clients as well, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's something I do hear from. There are some difficult clients about. Listen, thanks very much for our first panel. Put your hands together for Claire Tennant, for Anna Hayes, Lisa Walton, Ben Martin. So as they exit the stage, I'd like to introduce Jamie Watson, Managing Partner